So, gents, I wanted to talk to you about this because Keith Law was on our sister platform, ESPN 97.5. Joel Blank and Jeremy Branham asked him about the national perspective of how the Astros front office is operating. As we've kind of talked about here, and as fans and media have kind of been murmuring about, it seems like locally the opinion is Crane, Bagwell, Reggie Jackson are pulling the strings behind the scenes, with Dana Brown acting as sort of a spokesperson for the team's moves. Keith Law confirmed that it is the view, that view is shared by the national media as well. And you can go check out that interview on sportsmap.com right now. But like I said, this isn't news if you've been listening to this podcast, because that's something that we have speculated and questioned the internal power structure for quite some time. But admittedly, those of us who follow the team on a daily basis, from day to day, from game to game, can certainly be victims of being in a bubble. And so, Charlie, does Keith Law confirming this is not just a locally held belief? Does this provide some sort of sanity check for fans and media that they aren't crazy? And maybe a better question is it really that big of a deal? Is it only a big deal because of the performance on the field right now?
Oh, that certainly magnifies it. Keith Law of The Athletic, generally their prospects guy, but used to work for the Blue Jays, so he has contacts across Major League Baseball. When Dana Brown was hired, his background was in scouting and player development, and the Astros farm system is in poor shape now, but it was in a worse state of withered status when Dana Brown got the job for a number of reasons, some mistakes, picking late in rounds year after year because of the Astros' success, the no first and second round picks for 2 years because of the cheating punishment. And so Dana Brown's been on the job for one draft, right? The second one is near at hand, but you can't just rejuvenate a farm system overnight. So Dana Brown, the biggest part of his job, I think, for which he was hired, that's over a 2, 3, 4 year period. And then we'll see what Dana Brown has done with the Astros farm system. But he was not hired as the director of scouting or the player personnel director. He was hired, at least nominally, as the general manager. So was he hired already a little bit neutered in that area? Or, you'll handle the sort of B-list stuff, trading for that extra reliever or spare part player. But my kitchen cabinet, meaning Jim Crane, I'm real buds now with Baggy and Reggie, and so we're out on a golf course somewhere. That's where we'll really noodle out the bigger stuff and the bigger contracts. And we're going to give Montero 3 years, and we're going to go a third year on Jose Abreu. It would be a real interesting entry in Dana Brown's diary to get to read if he was to vent on this stuff, if he has stuff to vent about. Was he hired? And I don't want to say a big bait and switch operation. He's getting a general manager's salary. There are only 30 such gigs. He got a nice bump, I'm sure, from what he was making with the Braves. But is he in the role that he fully felt he was hired to fulfill? Can't know, but many, many wonder.
For me, this is kind of what we feared when Ausmus's name was being thrown around as possibly being the general manager. We feared this type of thing to where it'd really be Jeff Bagwell and these guys behind the scenes calling all the shots, and Ausmus would just kind of do their bidding. Well, it looks like it kind of happened anyway with Dana Brown as we speculate on the outside looking in. I don't know if it made that big a difference. I think at least Dana Brown it seems like maybe he's one extra voice in the room, maybe of kind of sanity of just a pure baseball guy, just giving his opinion, somebody doesn't have any connection to Bagwell or anything like that. But he is, I think, just a voice in the room, not what you would expect with the general manager, where you think what they think would carry more weight than somebody that's just an advisor. But we've been talking about this for a long time. It looks like that's what it is. It's Bagwell and Crane, and they talk about their baseball men. And I think this national opinion of the Astros goes back to when they parted ways with James Click. Who gets rid of their general manager after winning the World Series? So it goes all the way back to that. And I still think that was a huge mistake. And it's one of the reasons they are where they are right now this season with a losing record, in my opinion.
And you do have to wonder how much power does anyone really have? Uh, how much micromanaging is happening behind the scenes? I can tell you that it does make me rethink a little bit of the Dusty Baker situation, because now I don't know what kind of pressures he was under. I know we had Bob Nightingale, run that article that was basically saying that the analytics guys ran Dusty Baker off, which I think is complete nonsense, because there's no analytical person in charge that is making decisions for this team, because they are making decisions that go against the numbers right now. That does not seem to be the case, but I would buy an internal power structure that could run off a manager. In fact, we speculated in the last episode whether or not Astros would go through another manager just for the sake of someone having to fall on the sword for the results of this season. And I think part of the frustration from the fan base and the media's feeling is really from a feeling of being gaslit. Because, and let me just give you a prime example of that. Was Tuesday, Chandler Rome breaking the news that Christian Javier was scheduled for Tommy John surgery. And prior to that, our update from Dana Brown had been, Urquidy and Javier were feeling better. Chandler Rome Tuesday breaks the news that Javier was having surgery. MLB.com picked up the story, and through their website on their RSS feed, Astros.com actually pulled in a story that credited sources that Urquidy and Javier were getting surgery before the Astros would even confirm, which they would finally do on Wednesday, at least acknowledging that they were getting elbow surgery, but not confirming that it was Tommy John surgery. So in a time in which it feels like the goodwill is just continuing to be burned with fans right now, do you think continuing with this high level of secrecy, when really there doesn't seem to be anything to gain from it, do you think this is just a very interesting decision, to say the least?
Well, it said winning is the best deodorant. So losing is like a skunk cabbage rub. Maybe the Astros are just charmingly, naively optimistic when it comes to injuries. Right? It took them 3 days to realize Kyle Tucker's walking on crutches. Maybe he's not going to be able to play tonight. So they retroactively put him on the IL. He'll be out until at least this coming weekend. Or maybe he'll be out till mid-August. Who knows? We're talking about the Astros here. So I've said before, I just find it annoying, the obfuscation, the duck and dodge. There's no competitive benefit whatsoever derived from trying to think teams, oh no, we're scared. Maybe Javier is going to come back because he doesn't need Tommy John surgery. So I just find it silliness, but it's nothing new with the Astros MO. But all they've done is win, 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 win. So when the light shines a little bit differently, when you're at 30 and 36, where they are starting this week, there's going to be less tolerance or more annoyance at anything that goes wrong or doesn't seem on the up and up.
I just find it odd when they pick and choose on, what the deal is. Like, we find out that night that Kyle Tucker had x-rays and they were negative. They let us know that. In the finale of the Angels series, Bregman got hit on the hand again. After the game, Chandler Rome was tweeting out that the first one he took actually hit him on the hand. The one that happened in the finale actually hit him on the wrist. So not in the exact same spot. So it looks like he's going to be okay. So it's funny when sometimes they'll let you know stuff right away. And then,
Right.
With the Urquidy and Javier stuff, you're just sitting there going, what is going on? What is taking so long? So it's just so inconsistent. I don't know with these guys.
And I'm a WWE fan, so I love a good swerve, but I don't think we're going to be late in the season and Christian Javier's theme music comes and he comes running to the mound with a folded steel chair in his hand. Again, like, you're not getting over on anybody. You're not going to gain more leverage. Everyone knows that you're in need of starting pitching. So I don't understand the need to continue to have this high level Pentagon level of secrecy when it comes to injuries. So anytime there's any sort of ambiguity, you can't help but think, well, there's no telling. It could be a week or it could be season ending. I'll give you guys the last word.
Yeah, a little Pravda-ish at times. Everything is good. Everything is good. We have nothing but good news for you. Hey, the more pressing matter is the Astros start the week 6.5 back of the Mariners. Seattle is 4 with the White Sox. So it'll be a big surprise if they do anything less than hang 3 more wins among those 4 games on the wall. Astros need to win the series in San Francisco. Blowing that game Sunday, a 3-3 road trip does not cut it. It's not a miserable trip on its own face value or of its own face value, but where the Astros are in the standings, when you're playing 2 losing teams, you can't be going 500 when you're trying to roar from behind. So, if they take 2 out of 3 in San Francisco, it's a 4 out of 6 road trip. Okay, then come home and see what you do with the Tigers.
Yeah, they got to get back to 500 and get this thing competitive before the All-Star break. If Dana Brown's right, we're going to be buyers, not sellers. This is the time to get above 500, start playing good baseball, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if they add some more talent to the roster, or if they're just not that good and they do end up being sellers. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to get back to 500. I just don't know if they're going to backslide again. I just don't know if this is that team that finally kind of gets cranking, and it just took a while. I just feel like there's something about this team, even when they pile up a few wins, that they're going to give away a few. I think they really are around a 500 team.
Well, the numbers show that out for the largest sample size now, being, that 160, 180 game sample size that shows that they are a 500 team. And looking back on last season, they only win the division with Seattle and Arlington cooperating. However, Texas and Seattle were cooperating this week. So really unfortunate that they weren't able to close the deal on Sunday, but such is baseball. That's going to be it for this episode of Stone Cold Stros. If you listen on podcasts and you enjoy the show, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating. Charlie, Josh, and I will catch you next week, but you don't have to wait that long to get your Houston sports fix. All you have to do is subscribe to Sports Map Houston and Sports Map Texans on YouTube, and we'll have some more content for you during the week. And until next time, go Stros.